Welcome back to another episode of the Higher Love with Megan podcast, talking all things mind, body, soul, healing and expansion with me, your host, Megan Cooper. If you are returning to this space, please do take a moment to rate the show, or you can head to Apple Podcasts to leave a review, all of which enables more people to find me and for me to connect with more great guests each week for both yours and my enjoyment. If you're new here, welcome, and it's great to connect. Celebrating you for dedicating your time to self-discovery and reconnection. Our time is our greatest commodity and gift, so thanks for investing it in yourself and sharing it with me. Up on the podcast this week, we have Phil Kreutzer. Phil is an intuitive guide, nervous system specialist, and energy integration coach with a passion for supporting people in awakening to their infinite potential. He has developed an original approach which draws on somatic experiencing, mindfulness, breathwork, and other practices to help clients heal trauma, integrate energetic blocks, access the intuition, and connect with higher intelligence. Phil is the founder of Awaken Through Anxiety, a cohort-based program that guides people in learning to work with anxiety as an ally and a portal of awakening to the true self, intuition, and spiritual connection. This is such an incredible conversation, reframing healing and transformation in the context of coming back into balance, utilizing our issues, conditions, ailments, and triggers as signposts back into the true self. Phil discusses healing through the energetic body, creating the right conditions of the nervous system for the body to correct itself and homeostasis to occur, and carrying this framework into all areas of our lives. Enjoy. Well, good morning, Phil. It's great to connect with you again after our conversation last week. So thank you so much for reaching out and being a guest on the podcast. It's awesome to connect with you and have you here today, sharing all of your wisdom. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to jam with you today.
Awesome. And you have a very beautiful backdrop behind you. So for people listening, where are you dialing in from today?
Right now, I'm in the Northeast. So I'm on a beautiful lake in New Hampshire, but I'm based in Connecticut full time.
Beautiful. So just as a little bit of an introduction to who you are and what you do.
Yeah, of course. So I was thinking about this, and I'd like to start 87 lifetimes ago, but just kidding.
That also would have been cool.
Right, right. It is interesting to think of where to start the journey because it's always a journey that we're in, right? It's not a beginning and an end. It's a constant evolution. So, I have, I would say, several like before and after points in my life. And I couldn't say that before I was 23. That's not true. I couldn't say that before I was 6 and then 23. And then I would say 33. And so there's these kind of like chapter points in my life. And where I'll start, I think, is at 23. So I had a dark night of the soul spiritual initiation and in psychedelic space. And on the one hand, I was ready for that baptism. On the other hand, it was the scariest night of my life, but it served me. And so it got me off a path, one trajectory, one timeline onto another. And really kind of, I always had a spiritual curiosity, but it got me into spirituality. And then from then, that coincided right around the time I was graduating college and then started my first job. And that first job was a video production company, a marketing company. And I was Mr. Video Production. And so I did that for 8-9 years, only I was not technically savvy. I was not into videos. I wasn't into cameras. It was just something that I did for my first job. And then I thought, hey, I can't do anything else outside of this because I was so just living in fear and living such a small existence. I had so much anxiety. And so I allowed that small existence to go on for literally 9 years, where I would sell myself as I'm a video production expert. And so it was just like the most out of alignment life. And every day this anxiety was just knocking on my door and growing louder and louder and louder. Only the unknown outside of that was so terrifying. What can I do outside of this? And I convinced myself I couldn't do anything outside of being a video production guy who didn't know what the fuck he was doing. So that's just an illustration of how powerful these forces can be in limiting us and keeping us paralyzed. But at the same time, the anxiety is saying, hey, you're bigger than this. Wake up. Come
Yeah.
on. There's a bigger, better you wanting to happen all the time. And it wouldn't let me forget. And so I'm very grateful for that anxiety. And it wasn't until the pain of inaction outweighed the risks of taking action, that coupled with a couple, catalyzing events like deep heartbreak. The love of my life broke up with me, which was the greatest gift she could have ever given me, because it forced me to feel on a deep level. And deep pain is deep clarity. And right at that time, the universe gave me all these opportunities to face my fears. And one of them was going back into psychedelics for the first time in 10 years, that I had not wanted to go there. And I said, I'm ready to do it. And I did it. And then it was tremendously empowering. And then a few months after that, I decided to leave my company and booked a one-way ticket to Asia. And so then I did 3 or 4 years of solo international travel, just exploring any self-healing modality, any spiritual path that was interesting, that was calling my name. And then thereafter, I started a coaching practice. And so I've been doing that for 4 years. And so that is the Cliff Notes version, long story long, but it's a really long story that I just condensed, of how I got into this work and how we're talking. Because actually, I spent a lot of time in Bali. I know you did too, and that's the connection. So here we are.
Yeah, awesome. Thanks for sharing all of that. And what are the different kind of modalities you mentioned? Obviously, when you went traveling in Asia, you experimented with different modalities. So what were those? How did you start bringing those into your coaching practice?
Great question. So I would say it started a couple years before I left for Asia. Yoga was so important for me. I I mean, I did so many that it's not worth going all through. But the highlights, yoga,
Hmm.
right? Yoga got me out of my mind and into my body, and it's such an important part of the journey. And if you ask people in self development, it's really going from here to here. And so we're all living above the neck and disconnected. And so we want to come back into the body, where the intuition is, where the inner wisdom is, and where energy gets to flow, where we get to meet ourselves. So yoga was instrumental in getting me back into my body, spending a lot of time there, every day, developed a daily yoga practice. And I really credit that with giving me the connection to that inner wisdom, to be able to have the clarity to say, this isn't working, and then take a step in a new direction.
Yeah.
But I also add, actually, transcendental meditation
Mm.
was really big for me too. And I had a really powerful moment when I first started that it literally shifted the way my head felt. Like, it was like I was occupying a different part of my brain. And at first it was really, really uncomfortable because
Mm.
it was just so unfamiliar. And then a couple weeks into it, it just became the new normal. And thank God, because I think I got out of just a constant fight or flight state into a more just relaxed, grounded, like, okay, you can chill a little bit state. And from there, on the Asia journey, more of that, more of getting into the body, more of getting
Mm.
into the body, more of connecting with my energy, and more of finding mechanisms and modalities to just ground myself. Because when I opened up that channel, there was so much energy there that
Mm.
it was like for a couple of years, I was just talking anyone's head off about spirituality and consciousness. Like, I would talk to a signpost and just chant, just riff with the sign, like, just go, because there was so much energy and I didn't know how to ground it. And so
Mm.
that was really, really important for me to learn. So lots of different modalities, but the net is, it helped me get out of my mind and into my body, and helped me get into the parasympathetic nervous system.
Yeah, awesome. And I love something that you just said there, that actually when you started meditation and you had that experience of feeling really different in your head, it was actually really uncomfortable. I
Hmm.
think that's really important, because in the beginning, when we're learning a different way of being, it often does feel really uncomfortable, right? And I know that you work too with the nervous system. And actually, when we're so used to having a very dysregulated nervous system, it feels really weird, strange, bit unnerving to come out of fight or flight into a place of safety. It feels very
Hmm.
alien.
100%. Yeah, great point. Yeah, I mean, look, we're used to the chaos, and
Mm.
we're probably addicted to the cortisol.
Mm.
And right, we know it, and so we don't fear it. It's just like, this is what we know. And so going into new territory, it brings up the fear of the unknown, and that can be really scary. And it can be uncomfortable just because it's unfamiliar.
Mm.
This is my experience was with the meditation and feeling different in my head. It was uncomfortable just because it was unfamiliar.
Mm.
Because now it's just my new normal, and I feel better than ever. And so there is this kind of pattern in life when you go into new territory, that yeah, you got to deal with the fear of the unknown, and that's a big one, and that's what kept me paralyzed for so long.
Mm.
um, but it was a journey of kind of just knowing thyself.
Mm.
And I'll tell you what happened that was really a powerful shift for me was one of my first coaches, uh, a guy that I has since become a brother, a soul brother, and he is one of the most brilliant, gifted geniuses on the planet. And what I observed within him was he didn't get to this place, this just state that he embodied from reading a shitload of books, from like consuming a whole bunch of knowledge. It was actually from getting out of the mind and getting into the body, and then integrating any distortions, any unintegrated, unprocessed emotions, any traumas, so that he could clear his channel, so that he could just be deeply present and deeply connected to the infinite intelligence that we all have access to.
Mm.
And so that was really expansive for me, because I was like, whoa, this guy's so impressive. And this is different, because all the other people that I kind of put on a pedestal, I would say, oh, they've read 1,000 books. They've spent 12 years in India. They've done whatever. And no, this person was just from doing the inner work.
Mm.
And so that gave me kind of a blueprint for, this is how I want to do things, because this is where the true mastery lies.
And that true mastery being the embodiment, essentially, like the
Mm-hmm.
inner alchemy of your experience that then you feel in somebody else.
100%. And really seeing that it's an inside game. And our biggest challenge is ourselves. And so how do we turn that awareness inward and do the inner work? And when we do that, guess what? Our outer world is just a reflection of our inner world.
Mm.
And so when you look in the mirror and you see dirt on your face, are you going to wipe the mirror? Because I had done that for a long time. I'm an expert in mirror wiping, but you actually want to wipe your face,
Mm.
and then the outer world is reflection. But
Mm.
if so many of us are out here just wiping mirrors all the time and wondering why the dirt doesn't go away. Yeah.
Yeah. So how is it that you work now with people? And I know that the energy system plays the crucial role in the way that you work with people. So can you just explain a little bit about that?
Yeah, beautiful. I'd love to. So yeah, after that journey, I did several different trainings and several different modalities and learned all the ropes, and that just gets you the ticket to the game. And so I started coaching, and then put out a wide net, say, all right, I'm a life coach. I can coach people with life. And and so I started working with people, and I started to find, all right, who can I really most powerfully serve, and how can I most powerfully serve them? And very quickly I realized that everything is energy. You've probably heard that term thrown around a lot. But when we learn to experience reality on an energetic level, that is the most base reality that I've found. It is the most complete and accurate and profound experience of reality that I've found. And so people would be coming to me for, beliefs, mindset stuff, clarity, life direction, relationships. And I could always come back to, all right, well, what is the energy around this? And let's work on the energy around this, because our belief systems are emotional, and therefore they're energetic, right? Emotions are energy. And as we're integrating belief systems, what I would notice is we're going on this just beautiful, mysterious journey into the body. And when we go into that domain, our neurology is layered with sensations, emotions, and information. And so it's really this just allowing the nervous system to work its magic to unlayer these things in its own way. And it knows way better than any human does because that's its fundamental job. Like its zone of genius is homeostasis.
Mm.
Nervous system's like, hold my beer. I got this.
Yeah.
Right. And so as I just got the front row seat to hold space for that process. And I have such an admiration and appreciation for the genius artistry and architecture that the nervous system is.
Mm.
And so as I'm holding space for people and integrating their belief systems, what I noticed was just how that unlayering process happens. But also what I would observe is medical conditions healing, just going away,
Mm.
integrating, because there was an underlying energetic math equation to them. And so when we allow the energy to flow that was previously blocked, well, those energetic blocks are not meant to be there. Energy is meant to flow. Energy wants to flow. That's its only job. Feelings want to be felt, sensations want to be sensed. And so if we have a trauma that has led to stuck energy, an energetic block, first of all, it's blocking possibility, but it's also blocking the flow of vital force, life force energy. And so if we have enough blocks of flow, well, that energy never stops wanting to flow. And so it's biologically really expensive for us to have all of this stuck and stagnant energy because the energy is wanting to flow. Who do you think's energy is being used to keep it from flowing? That's ours. And so it's taxing our system, right? And so when we can learn to reintegrate that energy, then we are really returning. A few things are happening. First of all, the energy that was being used to hold it in separation is coming back to us. And now we're restoring that flow of energy, and we literally expand because that stuck energy is just a silo of our consciousness that is a no-go zone right now. It's off limits. We don't have access to that terrain. So when we reintegrate it, that's the expansion game. And a lot of times during this reintegration process, people will have downloads on the spot because there's literally more bandwidth in their consciousness to receive source energy. And by the way, it will clear up the downstream medical condition that was caused by this blockage of flow. So that gave me just a profound appreciation for the nervous system, as I said. And really, since then, the last 4 years, I've learned the finer points and nuance of co-creating with the nervous system. What are the conditions for the nervous system to really operate optimally? And I can share that with you as what my current read on that situation. The nervous system's core job is homeostasis. It's its expertise. It knows what it's doing. And actually, I have a story to illustrate this. So throughout the time that I've been coaching, and really actually coinciding with my spiritual awakening the last 6-7 years, I went to Thailand pretty early on and did an emotional detox bodywork training. And because intuitively I'd always been like, oh, let me give you a little shoulder rub and just enjoy that connection and supporting people in that way. And over the last few years, it's really come on strong as an intuitive ability where I am just a channel. And so I'm beyond thinking. I am just allowing whatever intelligence to move through me and massage and hit the points. And it's been an amazing journey because now I don't even need anyone to tell me what's going on with them. I just need to sit with that person, get present, and allow my hands to move, and they just find the points. And it's really allowing whatever intelligence to co-create with homeostasis. It's allowing homeostasis. It's allowing me to assist the process of homeostasis with my hands. And so 5 years ago, if you would ask me, hey, I got a knot right here, then my mind would be like, oh, let me go to that local area and then rub it a good amount and think like what should I do here? Now I don't think at all. And a lot of times if someone tells me I have something right here, I'll go to somewhere completely else, a different part of the body, and then work all over the place. And then 25 minutes in, the person will just be like, oh my gosh, it's completely unlocked. And it wasn't me. How would I have the knowledge to to do all of that. I don't. And so that's been my experience in watching people and the nervous system. It's like we are just holding space for homeostasis to happen. And so the way we do that is we receive ourselves in the moment with unconditional love. And so we're just pretty much giving full permission to our experience to unfold in whatever way it wants to. So feelings will present themselves, sensations will present themselves. And when we do this, there's only 3 categories of experience on the menu: sensations, emotions, and information. And so as we receive ourselves with unconditional love, allowing for the unfolding of our experience, then we really are going on this mystical journey into the unknown. So it might start with tightness in the chest, or a lump in the throat, or a pit in the stomach. And then we fully allow that experience. So feeling the tightness in the chest, okay, breathing with that, then we might feel it on a more subtle level. Then as that experience completes itself, I like to think of it as energy moving through us like a weather pattern. Then whatever layer is underneath that will reveal itself. We might get a wave of emotion. We might get we might feel energy in our calves or in our hands. I've seen it everywhere. And whatever presents, we allow. And in that way, we're giving full permission and trust to the nervous system to say, hey, you take the reign here. You know best. And they do, because we don't know. I mean, it's just whatever is wanting to happen, we allow. And that is the most direct path to healing. And a lot of times people will come in and say, okay, I want to work on this or that. And I say, okay, great. First, let's receive the moment, because let's allow the nervous system to tell us. And even if that is the intention, the path, trust me, the nervous system knows best. And so we'll go on this just amazing journey every single time. And it's so just marvelous to just witness that, because there is a beauty to it. There's a sacred geometry to it. There's like a poetry to it, a music to it. Sometimes there's an art to it. Because it's a mystical process as well, if we can hold space for that. And so it's so many things. I know I'm elaborating. And the final point to bring it home is the optimum conditions are love, and love is the lubrication for that process. And so if you think of homeostasis, what is it? It's a harmonious process. It's a process to bring us into harmony. And so the way I've learned to do that is, well, what is the most harmonious frequency in the universe? It's the universe's frequency of unconditional love. Because with unconditional love, guess what's welcome? Everything unconditionally. So nothing is outside of that. Everything's included within that. And so if we can essentially match source frequency, then source is working with us, and our homeostasis process the nervous system runs is actually not different from that. So if we are in complete unconditional love frequency, then anything that is a distortion of that will be there to be loved into that frequency, because love brings out anything unlike love to be healed. So that was a mouthful. Thank you for staying with me. Hopefully I didn't lose anybody.
No. It's amazing. I think it is such a novel way of looking at how to bring ourselves back into balance and create everything that we want.
Right.
And perhaps novel's not quite the right word, because coming back to homeostasis and balance is really what forms the backbone of a lot of the most ancient approaches to healing, whether that's Chinese medicine or Ayurveda. So perhaps a better word is comprehensive or zoomed out.
Right.
Because I know that self-development, improving ourselves, it almost becomes so complex, because we're like, well, I have to go over here, I have to do this, I have to do that. And, don't get me wrong, when it comes about creating our environments and, our daily schedules, there is complexity to it. But actually what you're talking about is like one overriding perspective of bringing ourselves into an alignment to call in everything that we want. And what was coming up for me was, so many people talk about this, like Bruce Lipton talks about this in terms of like bringing ourselves into alignment. And I know that you've also spoken about, it's like a radio frequency, kind of like attuning to ourselves. And also Elizabeth Gilbert talks about it when she's talking about how she downloads ideas for books and for novels, that she just becomes a conduit for inspiration. So her focus is to bring herself into alignment to receive the inspiration downloaded into her.
And I feel like that is such a useful way for people to look at self-development. You know, how do I create this relationship? How do I change my career? How do I find purpose? That it's actually about bringing ourselves into that unique frequency. And then it almost takes care of itself through being in homeostasis, right?
Mm, mm. Good stuff there.
Is that
Absolutely.
is that a kind of
I,
summary?
yeah, I love the way you put that. Yeah, absolutely. And I'm so glad you brought that up. And we could do a whole nother podcast on that. But look, I want to speak to this in a few different ways. So look, when we come into this world, what are we? We're inspiration personified. So we don't have any distortion. We are just like, okay, I am just flow happening. Like there's a butterfly there, I am going to chase that butterfly. And I'm not going to think about it. Should I chase that butterfly? No, I'm chasing that butterfly because I'm just inspiration happening. And and so when we look up in spirit world or in the world of pure potentiality, there is just inspiration happening, right? And even in nature, if you watch any like Planet Earth documentary, David Attenborough documentary, it's a symbiotic symphony of just harmony and like the sun rises and the birds play music for everyone to wake up and tell the jungle, hey, we're waking up today, and then let's go get the pollen, and then they have like the hummingbirds working with the insects, and it's all just like beautiful co-creation, and it's inspiration just happening. The hummingbird's not like, oh, I don't know if I should go today because like what's the weather going to be like? I mean, are my friends going to this other flower? Like there's no complexity there. There's
Yeah.
no complexity there. And so, but what happens is complexity gets forced upon us. It gets introduced to us. It gets conditioned, indoctrinated. Trauma happens. That's complexity, right? Because it's creating these distortions in our fields, which are the trapped energy that I spoke about earlier. And so the problem is we have all this complexity, right? And then what that complexity does is it takes us out of our body and puts us in our minds, because we're like, we have the complexity, so we got to think, okay, shit, is this a good thing? Am I going to get punished if I do this? And then before you know it, all we're doing is living up in the mind, which guess what the mind's really good at and really actually terrible at? Complexity, right? It's just more complexity. And so what we want to do with that complexity, the invitation, is to come back to simplicity. And how we do that is come back to the moment. And when we receive the moment deeply, aka receive ourselves unconditionally with love, those are the conditions for homeostasis, then anything that is distortion, any complexity, is there to be filtered through the simplicity of the moment and received through simplicity of the moment. And clarity is that receiving. Clarity is only experienced and available in the present moment. It's alive and dynamic. It's a current that we have access to. It's an energetic experience. Clarity is an energetic experience. And so where people get stuck is trying to figure out the clarity from the mind, trying really hard. Okay, let me make this list of like, here's what I want, here's the pros and cons. And the problem is you're never going to get to that clarity that you want from the mind in that way, because you're disconnected from the moment. You're disconnected from the receiving. And to illustrate this, I have a client who, one of these guys, such a sweetheart. One of these guys that was highly empathic, highly intuitive, highly sensitive, and then he came into this complexity indoctrination and lost himself. And so many gifted intuitives that our 3D reality doesn't have a way to receive them and incorporate them. They pretty much just make them live above the neck, and it creates a lot of inner turmoil, a lot of problems. So we started working together, and I said, when we were exploring his triggers, and it was when his wife asked him, what do you want for dinner? And he would almost like short circuit, because he would feel this pressure, and he's like, I don't know. And here he is, he's trying to figure out, okay, what's the answer to dinner from the mind? But that's not where you access the clarity on what you want for dinner. And I've been that dude at the restaurant that's been like, hey guys, what do you think I should get between these two things? And then you order it and you're like, fuck, I should have got the other thing. And because I'm in my mind trying to figure it out. But when I ask you what's for dinner, it's like, let me drop into that. I feel like a pizza. oh my gosh, I so feel like a pizza. But what is it? I feel like a pizza. It's felt. That
Mm,
clarity is felt. It's connected to the body. Ooh, yeah, that's really what I feel like. And so, I say, like, if you want clarity on the big things in life, don't ask for clarity on, like, what's my life purpose. Start when you wake up in the morning. What do you feel like doing?
mm,
Because odds are you become so disconnected that that's no longer even a thing for you. And so we want to reconnect just in every moment. What do I feel like doing? And then as you receive the clarity, oh, I feel like going to a coffee shop I feel like walking the dog to my favorite coffee shop this morning. Okay, now you are in the current of clarity, in the current of inspiration. And so
mm,
as you take that inspired action within that current, you're going to be receiving more inspiration and clarity because you're in the receiving of it. And so final point to bring that all home. Yeah, look, one of the things that I see in self-development, and I'm really happy with the proliferation of the coaching industry. It's double-edged sword. Obviously, it comes with its pros and cons, but filling the gaps of conventional approaches that there's a lot of shortcomings within, right?
mm,
I like to think of like psychology, like a lot of psychology, the history of it, they've gotten a lot of things wrong, and really they've been part of it. I characterize as like an effort to think their way outside of the mind, which is impossible, right? And so trying to solve complexity from complexity never ever is going to work for you, ever ever ever. We need to come back to the simplicity. And so what I've done in my practice is guided people in their own remembering, in bringing their inner knowing back online, and bringing their intuition back online, and giving them the codes that will integrate because they resonate. And if something resonates, it integrates because it's felt. Oh, that feels right. Well, your feeling of it, guess what? It's integrated already. But if you're trying to study really hard from the mind, things are not integrating. You're cramming. And how much from your junior year of high school, when you crammed for your test, do you remember? Did you move forward with? No, it's just the short term memory so we can pass the test. And then where did that get us? Right. And so I'm speaking to that part of them that is that inner knowing that just wants to remember.
mm,
And so if we can approach things in that way, then guess what? We are actually master integrators. We can absorb so much information, but just trust that whatever you're meant to absorb, if you're open and listening from a place of feeling, you're going to get. And you can
mm,
listen to this same podcast a year from now and you can get something completely different because you're just right for different codes at that time. And so it's really important to simplify things. And
mm,
I already said one last point, but one last point is this like modality of receiving ourselves. I actually don't even think of it as a modality. I think of it as a capacity.
mm,
It's a capacity that we all have to feel energy, to discern energy, to integrate. Like it's just remembering how this human experience works and all of the tools and genius that we have access to within our architecture.
mm, mm. And seeing as well all of these conditions, aches, pains, triggers, diseases as signposts back towards that, right? Because I know that a lot of people, and myself included in the past, have looked at conditions or challenges and been like, that's something to get rid of. I don't want that.
Right.
But actually, it's moving us back into alignment, right? Like into homeostasis, the body's intelligence, the energy system's intelligence, moving us back into this state of inspiration, unconditional love. Is that how you see these conditions and various things that you work with?
100%. And that's why I resonated with you as
Yeah.
soon as I saw your Instagram and that was like the title. I was like, dude, I got to connect with her.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And look, what can we do with those things, right? Because that, I guarantee you, for 99% of the people out there, brings so much complexity,
Mm,
right? All these things. Oh, what is this? What is this? I got to, okay, what kind of specialist can I go to for this? And this, how about this? How do they work together? Okay, and my friend said something about alternatives. Okay, so much complexity to try to figure out from the mind. And we can also take all the complexity and filter it to a place of simplicity, which is it's all happening for us. And the simplicity of, okay, Are we taking a harmony lens, or are we taking a separation lens? So this thing that I don't like, this thing that's in separation, well, guess what? It's all you. What if it was all you? What if it was all happening for you? What if it was all happening for you? And sensations want to be sensed, feelings want to be felt. And so we actually don't need to know anything other than what's here and can I be with it. And the way I've characterized this kind of energy integration capacity, it's like when you have a fireplace and you open up the flue to the chimney, then now you've opened up a pathway for heat to rise from the entire house. Now there's a pathway for it to rise up through the chimney. Well, when we receive ourselves with unconditional love and open up our receiving channel, then we're opening up that same kind of pathway for energy to move through. And so it's a matter of opening up ourselves to the flow. And so we start with, okay, what's here? The sensations, the anxiety. And as we open up to the flow, then there is this intelligent co-creation happening with the nervous system, with our higher selves, and so much can be revealed. And so, anxiety is one, chronic pain is another. Chronic pain is one that I'm supporting people with. And another big one, fear, right? Another big one is triggers. And this is one that is so important because you've probably heard the term, or maybe you haven't, triggers are the teachers. Triggers are the breadcrumbs back to our healing, right? And so if someone pokes us where it hurts, we might erupt on them, right? And how many of us have had that experience where someone said something to us triggering, and then we just like lost it on them, and they're like, whoa, I just said this, right? And it's like, well, it's because it's hitting something bigger that hurts. Because if someone pokes you where it doesn't hurt, you're just gonna be like, what are you doing? It's not going to carry that, right? And everyone has different triggers, and so someone could say the same thing that triggered you to somebody else, and it's nothing. And so the fact that it's triggering, well, guess what? That is the kinesthetic connection, and so that's the energetic connection. And so that's how we can energetically connect back to that wound, and we hold space for it. And so we're giving now space, and love is lubrication, acceptance is allowance, so it can then move through us like a weather pattern, freeing that stuck, trapped energy. And that is really important for our healing. But here's another way that can cause problems. So give you an example. When we have something that's traumatic from our childhood, and it doesn't need to be big trauma like rape, war, or whatever. For an innocent kid, it could be like you knock something over at the dinner table and your mom flipped out on you, right? So there's an intelligent process within our nervous system that wants to keep us safe. And so we had a traumatic experience, and it's like, oh my gosh, there's too much pain here. We have to catalog a reference point to know that anytime we encounter a similar situation, that we have to be on guard and not, allow this to happen again. So how that works is the nervous system will capture the energy, and it will store it out as a reference point, because it will store the frequency. So it knows, okay, because it's constantly feeling frequency. So it's like, okay, we feel this frequency out in the field, better be on guard, better be vigilant, maybe go somewhere else. Now, on the one hand, that's helping us, it's protecting us, right? But long term, that can be detrimental, because what does it do? It stores the frequency. And so a perfect example of this was, I had a client who's probably 50 or so. I shouldn't say that, probably in her 40s or so. And she lives on this island. The island has like these politics of like middle school, like gossip, like popularity. And there's this woman who's really bullying her. And so she signed up for a session with me to feel into the energy of that, because she's getting triggered by it. So, and she's like, why does this keep happening to me? So we felt into it. As we feel into the energy, I'm like, okay, well, how does that make you feel? How does this woman make you feel? Just connect with the energy of that. And we're feeling into the energy of that. We're going on this journey. And it takes us back to this seminal memory when she was in middle school and this girl bullied the heck out of her. And so by connecting to the energy in today, we're in the same frequency of 8th grade. And so that's what I've observed in my energy integration work, is that it will take us back to the seminal memory so that we can free that trapped energy. Because that trapped energy, although it was used to protect us, it's actually detrimental, because what does it do? It makes us a vibrational match for that experience in life, so that we're going to keep attracting bullies because we're carrying that frequency. And that's not good. So her whole life, she's been a heat-seeking missile for bullies. And so all we need to do is contact that energy, experience it, and that experiencing of the energy is lubrication for it to move through us. We're no longer a vibrational match. And we're no longer going to get triggered if someone pokes us there. And if we do, more integration work for us to do.
And we're a vibrational match for it, but also because it's an open loop or stored within the body, we're always trying to unconsciously heal it, right? So we're kind
100%.
of almost unconsciously putting ourselves into situations for the opportunity to heal, even though we think, oh, well, this just keeps happening again to me.
Right. 100%. Great point. And so it could be so easy for us to tell a victim story. And a compelling one. Look at the mountain of evidence of me being picked on, me being bullied. Why does this keep happening? Why do you keep picking on me, universe? Right? Now, we could also tell the story of, oh, the universe this whole time has been trying to just heal me. And what's the most direct path? Well, to trigger me so that the homeostasis can happen. Because the universe is like, yo, I run homeostasis. Like, all you got to do is feel it. All you got to do is feel it. And then you're healed and you're good. And so that's a tricky one. And a lot of people are caught in the victim consciousness, and the victim consciousness is a separation consciousness. It's victim perpetrator, the universe and me, versus the happening for me, the unity consciousness of, let me see this is happening for me, and then I can integrate and come back into union.
Yeah, totally. And that applies also to our bodies. You know, as we've talked about, when there's something that, in inverted commas, goes wrong in the body, we can have that victim consciousness to it of, this is happening to me. There is something wrong with my body that's happening to me. But actually, it's that invitation to come back into homeostasis. And I know also that you see anxiety in that domain as well. So could you talk about your perspective on how you see anxiety, which is different to the conventional way that society views anxiety?
Yeah, I would love to. So anxiety is so many things, and it's an interesting proposition and paradox, because you can use so many words interchangeably with anxiety, because anxiety is simultaneously healing wanting to happen, and it being kept at bay. It is simultaneously our wholeness wanting to happen and it being held in separation. It is simultaneously our potential and power wanting to come online and it being clinched against. Anxiety is that disconnection point, but it's also the reconnection wanting to happen. And so, it's a matter of art. How are we relating to anxiety? Because anxiety has been framed as a problem, as something to get rid of, as something to numb.
Yeah.
And that is completely missing the point. Because it'd be like giving your fire alarm a Xanax, right? And it's actually our younger inner child wanting to be attended to, wanting to be healed, wanting to be received, wanting to be integrated. And so I look at anxiety as our felt sense of intuition wanting to come online, as an intelligent function of homeostasis, and a portal of awakening to the true self, to the whole self, and a portal of awakening to higher intelligence, higher power, and connecting to that. Because it's an energetic math equation. And so if you Google anxiety, you'll see, the definition, you'll see it's two parts. One is it's a restriction of flow of energy in the moment. Two is it's a worrying about the future, that things are not going to be okay. And the remedy for both is to receive the moment deeply, to integrate the energy that is there. And pretty much exactly what we've been talking about up until this point, right? And so in doing research for this program that I put together, I went deeper. I went to the etymology. And if you look in the etymology of anxiety, it actually is to choke the spirit. And I was like, wow, that's powerful. And then I looked at the etymology of inspiration, and the etymology of inspiration is to allow the breath of the divine in. And so we have this kind of polarity there where we have the anxiety is the choking of the spirit. And if we can breathe and allow that spirit in, then we have access to infinite inspiration. And so that's why I call it Awaken Through Anxiety.
Awesome. And, anxiety is so widespread. So do you see that as
a very commonplace need to come back into homeostasis with our true selves, or a kind of commonplace readiness for reconnection, or very widespread distortions? Maybe
huge proportion of society who are literally ready to make that leap to connect to source. What do you see as the reason why there is so much widespread anxiety?
A number of things, and that's such a great question. Such a rich place to explore and feel into. Look, it's the point of disconnection. And so I think it's the single greatest potential point for humanity to reconnect. It's interesting because I had anxiety for 25 years, but I didn't self-identify as having anxiety. I didn't know. I was just kind of coping and self-medicating, and I didn't know that that's what it was. And so it's bringing this different approach into the conversation, but what it can offer is a portal to your infinite potential. So it's literally an invitation to infinity. And so how do we get that word out in a way that is not, there's stigma around anxiety too. And so I'm kind of feeling into that. But I would say, like, in the US alone, there's over 40 million people that are like medicated, like prescribed diagnosis having anxiety.
Wow.
But everybody, it's part of the human experience. So everybody has it. It's just, how do we frame it in a way that people can understand and it makes sense and it's simple and that they feel like, oh, this is relevant to me. Right? Because I had it, like I said, pretty severe anxiety, and it wasn't relevant to me. I knew the word, I knew it was a thing, but it was like, okay, but I got my own world to worry about. So it's a great question. I don't think I've figured it out yet, but I think it's one of the single greatest potential points for humanity. If we can bring all these people that are disconnected back into connection, then it's amazing. Now, why is the disconnection? Well, it does serve, like, try taking one of the biggest economies in the world, health and healthcare, and then if you introduce the simplicity of homeostasis, where does that all go? It's no longer a $1 trillion industry, like, so it's, we're up against a lot of powerfully funded legacy institutions and machines and norms. And so how do we break that?
And you also spoke about it in terms of when we are opening up our channel, clearing our channel, we're connecting to truth frequency, which is an idea that I really, really loved from you. So I'd love for you to tell us a little bit about that, because you also saw that as this remedy to this increasing complexity that we have within society.
Yeah, beautiful. I would love to talk about truth frequency. So truth frequency, so many different ways I could speak on this. One is, when you express from a place of truth, it is felt in the truth center of the other people. And when you speak from a place of truth, you invite others into truth. So one way I like to think of it is, like, if you play a guitar in a room full of guitars, you're going to hear the humming on all the guitar strings. And really, we all are interconnected in that way. And so speaking truth is one of the most impactful things that you can do. Speak your truth, because you make it accessible for others. And as I said, when you speak from a place of truth, it is felt. So, like, look at a Martin Luther King speech. You can feel it. Right? And you resonate with it. And so truth frequency can be experienced and it can be validated. Oh, that feels true to me. Right? And as we do this inner work to clear our channel, to integrate any distortions so that there's no-go zones in our consciousness, there's no places that we can't feel into, we have access to all of our feeling, then so much information can be conveyed through frequency, so much bandwidth. And it's an instantaneous processing. All that complexity, no, it's all filtered through the simplicity of frequency. So we can feel, I vibe with this. That feels true to me. this person is legit. This person's channeling some like potent inspiration, and I can feel that it's connected. Right? You just get that through the frequency. Versus you can, and now you can also feel where people are unintegrated, where people have a lot of trauma, where people are full of shit, where people are coming with incoherency, and you can feel that, and it just doesn't resonate because it's incoherent. And so as we move forward as a species into ever increasing complexity, right, and we know that's on the horizon in an exponential trajectory, then and given to where we are right now with our politics and disorder and disunion in the world, it's like, oh my gosh, how are we going to navigate the next decade, or let alone the next couple of years? And you combine that also with the erosion of our trust in any authority, because we've been let down, and we can see through some of the bullshit. We can feel that that's incoherent, that doesn't resonate, that does not feel true. So our trust in things outside of ourselves is eroding. And so that's actually pointing us back inward to feel, right? To that ultimate compass. Does this feel true? And so having that capacity online is going to be so important and essential, I would say, for us to navigate the coming times. And it's a thing. It's an actual experience. It's an actual experience that we can refine, awareness that we can refine. And so as people do the work, and I think that people are going to be called into the work more and more, then that's going to become a thing. And that's going to be the great equalizer, because energy doesn't lie. And so for us to, first of all, understand that that's a thing, and then to now bring it online, then it's like, oh my gosh, it can shift everything, because we know what's for us and we know what's not for us. And it's an instantaneous thing where we don't have to get caught in the complexity, because we'll learn to trust it more and more. And when we trust the frequency more and more, we'll be in the right place at the right time, right? We'll be in the right aligned with the right opportunities. And so it's I think a great equalizer that not a lot of us maybe are aware of right now, but we're just getting started. So it's going to come online more and more, and it's really also a pathway to synchronicity. So truth frequency is the ultimate differentiator, and I think the ultimate kind of wild card that we all have, the access to. So like when you come from a place of truth, you're going to attract people that resonate with that truth. And so it's a big concept for me to break down. I know we got just a little bit of time, but I think it's one of the most important, and it's going to be talked about more and more as it becomes a thing, and as we evolve to develop that discernment.
Even just at a very base level of that, of being able to detect or discern whether somebody is trustworthy or non-trustworthy, whether something is right for us or not right for us. It's really how we've survived for millennia, even on, just that gut, those gut instincts, that intuition. So having that, even at a very base level, has contributed to our survival. And that's just in a world which was, thousands of years ago, when actually the world wasn't very complex. But now there is so much noise, and actually that's even more important than ever.
Right. There's so much noise and disconnection.
Yeah.
Right. And so back in the day, we didn't have all the noise. We just actually were just chilling in nature all the time. It was just all quiet time. Right. And so now we have all this noise and complexity and disconnection. So it's really, really important that we bring this online.
Yeah, amazing. For yourself and working with clients, you talk about clearing your channel, creating that connection, finding our connection to source. What are tools, practices that you would encourage people to create for themselves and lean into, that you have found most useful for yourself and your clients?
Beautiful. Yeah. Well, here's a good one. So if you were an indigenous tribe, and if you felt anxious or off or depressed or anything that was off within you, you would go to the shaman. And the shaman would be both the doctor, the spiritual authority, the elder, right? And they would not give you complexity. They would give you simplicity, and they would ask you one of four questions and say, when did you stop singing? When did you stop dancing? When did you stop being enchanted by stories? And when did you stop sitting in silence? And so when I first heard that, I was like, oh my gosh, we've overcomplicated everything. It's really that simple. It's really that simple. And so, singing is a way for us to clear our channel. It's a way for us to move energy through. And we all have a musical instrument, right? It's not like, some people can sing and some people can't. No, some people are just tuned, right? And it's a way for us to move energy through. Dancing, a way for us to move energy, right? And some people can dance, some people can't dance. No, everybody can dance. It's just, are there energetic distortions and complexity and blocks that are making it difficult for them to feel rhythm and connect to rhythm? Silence, right? That's such an important one, is just setting 5-10 minutes a day of just sitting in silence and just breathing and allowing. And you can start by connecting to the breath, giving your mind an anchor point to just be present with the breath and the breath alone. And then the stories piece, the enchanted by stories, that's our passion. That's our curiosity. And when we're so disconnected, odds are we've lost that. We forgot what even lights us up. And so we need to exercise the soul, and that's how we do it. And so there's different ways of doing that. I said yoga was big for me. Getting into your body is really good. But the silence, the singing, the dancing, and breathing. And so I've had the pleasure of, one of my best friends is a top breathwork facilitator, and just being in his field I just observe how he breathes, and he's just always constantly breaking up the space and taking a breath before a new sentence. And that breath, the breath is so crucial to facilitating the flow of energy. When we're connecting with the breath, energy can flow. But if our breath is shallow or our breath is held, then we're holding energy stuck. So I gave you all a lot there. But the biggest ones would be, finding time to get in silence and get into your body.
I love that. And thank you for sharing that around the shaman. I mean, I literally got little tingles on my skin when you said that. And I'd heard it before, but I haven't heard it for a long, long time. So I love that. And the answer, I guess, for so many people is that they stopped doing all of those things a long time ago.
Totally.
And with the dancing, it's reminding me of, I went to a festival last weekend, and we were going to ecstatic dance, and, a tribal ecstatic dance. And when we're in those types of environments, there is no good or bad dancing. There's no good or bad singing. It's just noises, sounds, movements. And when people are expressing themselves, even if it is, wild and looks strange, it's beautiful to watch, right? When people just expressing themselves authentically and they don't care, it's so beautiful, and I think it's, as you were saying, it's just us having that idea of good or bad that really stops us from doing these things.
100%. Ecstatic dance is such a powerful modality. And the first one I went to, I remember I had a Belgian friend, and he was doing the most goofiest dances. And I was so envious because how free he was and how much he did not give a fuck.
Yeah.
And so I've had my journey with ecstatic dance, but it's about dissolving judgment. And all judgment is self-judgment. And so ecstatic dance is such a powerful modality for dissolving self-judgment, because that's really what's inhibiting your flow.
Yeah. Totally.
And so it's liberating all the movements in the body movement. So yeah, ecstatic dance is such a good one. If you can find one in your local area, I highly recommend.
And I was the same. I remember going to my first ecstatic dance, and I was standing there against the wall, just who are these people? What are they doing? Why aren't I drunk right now? Why is everyone sober, and how are they doing this? Totally. It was a while back. And I guess that's just a metaphor for all of these things, that actually these things can, just as what you were saying about meditation, they feel so strange in the beginning because they're new. But actually, when we allow ourselves to ease ourselves in, find safety, find comfort, there's so much liberation on the other side.
100%. I'm all in on ecstatic dance.
Amazing.
Okay, so just beginning to wrap up, I would love for you to outline, for anybody who's listening who does experience anxiety and who has really resonated with the way that you frame anxiety and the healing of it, if you could just outline your program, Awaken to Anxiety, for us.
Yeah, I would love to. So I take people through a 6-week program that's designed to support people in that journey, right? And so giving them the understanding of here's what triggers are, and here's the energetic math equation of fear, right? It's breaking down the energy dynamics of the nervous system and the energetic blocks that we encounter, and what contributes to anxiety. And the program is designed to be highly experiential. So we have homework that is, energy integration homework, as I teach you the capacity and modality. But every single week, I live facilitate the program. Every single week, we have live integration coaching available. So because the best learning is experiential. And so you'll have the opportunity to be live coached in front of your other peers, and to have that experience. That's how you actually integrate. And then the other people will actually get to see the live coaching of the person, so they get to share in the experience in that way. And I think that environment is so conducive to like instant integration. Like people have breakthroughs like on the spot. And so I'm super excited about it. I just finished my first 3 beta cohorts, and now I've incorporated all that learning to build so much value into the cohort now on offer. So I'm sure I'll supply the links for that. But I also have a free Facebook group of the same name, Awaken Through Anxiety, which everyone's welcome to join.
Amazing. Is there anything else that you wanted to share today? I know also that you've got another course as well.
Delivering Divinity, yeah. So just really quickly, both those programs, Awaken Through Anxiety and Delivering Divinity, they arose through just following aligned action. So it started with one masterclass, and then as I was about to give the masterclass, I was like, you know what? Actually, maybe I'll do a 6-week course on anxiety. And then midweek through that first cohort of anxiety, I was like, you know what? Maybe I'll do a 3-month program on Delivering Divinity. And so just looking back retroactively, it's like you can appreciate how it all came together when I couldn't see the path when I first started, right? I just saw the next step and the next step. So Delivering Divinity is kind of a natural progression for the 6-week anxiety program. And it's just taking things further. There's more terrain on the field that we have access to. So we have no limitations like spirituality, woo-woo, whatever. It's just more variables and more space. And so it's really about clearing our channel and understanding the nuance of energy dynamics and how to dissolve complexity, all different kind of ways of thinking about it, so that we can really clear our channel to just be clear, because infinite intelligence, infinite inspiration, it's not a supply side issue. It's a hardware issue and software issue. And so it's doing the hardware and software work so that we can just be clear conduits and flow however we're inspired to.
Beautiful. Thank you. What would your final takeaways want to be for people? What's your final invitation, and what would you like to leave people with?
I had such a great time. Final invitation would be, in this world, like, the first thing you do when you wake up in the morning is probably check your phone, and you just open up all these tabs in your consciousness. And it's probably the last thing you do before you go to bed. And we really need empty space. We need to create the empty space. And if you've seen the documentary, The Social Dilemma, like unbelievably influential and well-funded, like the most powerful organizations in history are working against us. And so we have to take like radical action to just take back our sovereignty and our space. So it's really important that, like, even if you can just give yourself 30 minutes in the morning to just be you, be alone with you before you open up those tabs, maybe go out in nature, maybe open up a journal and journal. It's reconnecting to the self. And that's so important. So that would be my invitation.
Beautiful reminder. Thank you so much, Phil. Thank you for this conversation. It's been amazing. I could literally sit here all afternoon and talk about all these topics. It's there's so much good stuff that you brought in. So thank you so much for your time and energy today.
Totally. I had a blast. Thank you so much for having me.
You're welcome. Thank you.
I loved that conversation so much, and thank you again to Phil for sharing all of his wisdom with us today, and I hope that you all received so many great takeaways from such an incredible conversation. Since recording this episode, Phil has now opened up for Delivering Divinity Round 3, and I quote, Think of it as a flow state learning lab, miracle mystery school, and expansion playground with a soul tribe of brothers and sisters you didn't even know that you wanted. The information for Delivering Divinity and also Phil's course of Awaken Through Anxiety is available within the show notes, as well as all of Phil's contact information. I always love to hear your feedback, so feel free to hit me up via my Instagram at higherlove_with_Megan or via my website higher-love.com. I love to hear your takeaways, and if you enjoyed this episode, please do share, rate, or send on to somebody else who would benefit. Until next time, big love.